What is up, guys? Today we're going to be talking about Cha-Ching, The Drawing of Three by Stephen King. So this is book number 2 in the Dark Tower series, and this review might have some spoilers for The Gunslinger. If you haven't read The Gunslinger yet, I definitely encourage you to go out and do so. I do know that a lot of avid King fans and even fans of the Dark Tower series have not really given that book a whole lot of love, but yours truly here absolutely adored that book. In fact, that's what pushed me to get to this one so soon. And, after reading it, I'm glad I did. And I'm pretty stoked about this Dark Tower journey so far. Let's get into it. So in The Drawing of Three, we basically pick up right after the events of The Gunslinger. In fact, we basically pick up like 7 hours, I think, after the events of The Gunslinger. So here we are with Roland on the beach. And basically, he's coming out of this dream. He remembers the events with the man in black. He remembers, the drawing of these 3 cards, these tarot cards, and they each had like a name on them. They each represented somebody that was going to be a member of his quartet. Like, he knows, remember, Roland is a gunslinger that is just obsessed with reaching the tower. And after the events of the Gunslinger, we know that Roland is going to need these 3 people, at least that's what it seems like, to basically, persevere here in this journey towards the Dark Tower. So like I was saying, when the book starts, we're picking up with Roland. He's coming out of his dream. It's only hours after his meeting with the man in black, but we do know that time has been fast forward here on Roland, but the journey begins. And it definitely starts out just, weird and strange, and I loved it. Basically, Roland's journey is just right out the gate. It almost seems to be a cursed one. He doesn't even seem to really know exactly where he's going, but he is heading in a direction. And then we see him kind of come across our first kind of hurdle and threat here in the book. And these are these things known as the lobstrosities. Now, they're kind of like mutated lobsters, basically. They're like big old lobsters, and I know that, this book was written a while ago, and today we have video games like Fallout where people are like, oh, big lobsters? No problem. Well, easy, soldier, because these big lobsters, they're not just big, they talk. And they talk in gibberish, and their gibberish is in question form. So I don't care how crazy Fallout you are, man. These things are creepy, and I loved them. Like I said, when Roland first comes across these things, they are creepy crawling up to him, and they're asking him these weird-ass questions, like, I did a chat, I did a chum, like something like that. It is just bizarre and everything that I wanted right out the gate. Roland's run-in with the lobstrosities is not just going to be a creepy one, it's actually very dangerous. And this is where we see Roland get injured. He actually gets disfigured. He loses some fingers and a toe, and these injuries will begin to cause an infection in Roland as well. So not only does he get disfigured, we see him get sick. And as we watch Roland, yes, he might escape the lobstrosity with his life intact, but we can tell he's already in a bad way, and this is right in the beginning. And now Roland will come across a door, and this part is strange as all hell because the way the door, it's not attached to a building. The door just kind of seems like it's came from nowhere. But it also has a name on it, and Roland knows that this name is one of the cards that he was drawn during that tarot reading with the man in black. Now Roland is in a situation where his ammunition is wet, most of it's probably no good, he's missing fingers, and he's sick. He's becoming deathly sick. It's just not good, and Roland has no choice. One way or the other, Roland has that in him that he's just gonna push forward towards the Dark Tower no matter what. Sickness, missing fingers, wet ammunition, doesn't matter. So, as to be expected, we watch Roland make his trip through the first of the 3 doors that we will see throughout this book. So I want to dive into some stuff. I want to kind of keep it at that because I know this is going to be a pretty long series, and I just kind of want to tread lightly in the narratives of each book as I kind of review them. And I think that that's kind of where I want to stop. So But from here, I guess like we can get into some cool stuff, right? Well, right out the gate, I want to just talk about maybe the pacing in this book. I used to talk about pacing all the time, and I haven't in a minute. But this book has great pacing. There is some stuff, along with Stephen King's writing style. Man, it's beautiful, but it's not. It doesn't seem so crazy. I've heard that it can get out of control, but in this book, it is descriptive, but it's not so like flowery, padded, like overkill. It seems like it was just enough, and it was really good because it is fluid and it does bring you through the story, because there is going to be some confusing stuff. Stephen King is throwing some shit at you that's just like you kind of be popping in and out. There's just a lot of craziness to be had, but at the same time, he does a good job of pacing it out right, and as well as just kind of, yeah, he's creating this craziness, but he's also just keeping you along for the ride in like a very awesome way, man. Like you really get sucked into the story and you don't get too left behind. The next thing I want to talk about is the characters in the book, because this is only my second Stephen King book, but his character work is something that I'm beginning to admire on a high level. I really love his characters. I really like the gunslinger. I loved Roland from book 1. Roland, to me, was very much an addict. Like, his quest for the Dark Tower is something that just reminds me very much of, like you could say a drug addict's quest to get high. Nothing will stop Roland on his quest for the Dark Tower. We have seen that he's willing to sacrifice anything, anyone, to reach the Dark Tower, because in his essence, Roland really thinks that once he reaches the Dark Tower, everything's gonna be all right. And speaking of drug addicts, Eddie Dean, my man. I mean, I know people like Eddie Dean. That's one thing that impressed me, was that this character was fleshed out and very realistic. As comical as he is, you have to understand there are people just like Eddie Dean, just like Henry Dean. Oh man, that whole part was very awesome to me. Eddie Dean, there's a part in here where it's just like there's a very comical cavity search. And like I said, some people might be like, this is so unrealistic, but trust me, there are people out there that this is just, it was so awesome to see. This was like almost like reading about some of my dirtbag friends. And he's so witty, and I do like that in this book, Eddie is kind of forced to clean up, and we see how sharp he is. This was great, because a lot of times, when you take these people that are, just been beaten down by drug abuse and their addiction has torn them apart, when they finally get to break free from that, we really get to see like the beautiful parts of these people and just how capable that they can be, and just really like just how much their addiction stifles them. We'll also get to see another member of Roland's crew here, which is going to be Odetta Holmes, but also Detta Walker. Now, Odetta is schizophrenic, and this whole part is very like disorientating because you are popping back and forth. You're dealing with very polarizing personalities. Odetta is so very kind and loving, and then Detta is, she's a woman that she knows of the pains of the world and from her own personal pains and the pains of her people, and she's the kind of gal that's willing to strike back. And this just plays out as crazy as she is. This whole thing plays out even crazier, and it's just, man, I felt so bad for Roland at times, because this, just trying to get this journey off the ground is quite the struggle. And as entertaining as Odetta and Detta are, man, it was a lot, and you're going to cover a lot of stuff like racism and just, there's some tragic backstory stuff with her as well. And it is kind of linked to another character that we will meet in the end. One of the things about the book, this is, it's The Dark Tower. It's by Stephen King, and there is plenty of dark stuff going on in this tale, but there is also, lots of levity in this story at times. And I think a lot of it comes through with this like culture shock slash, world shock with Roland and these other members. As we see him, Roland step through the door, he's really going into another world. And his, what he can kind of understand of it is just really comical, when it plays through to the reader, like the Tudor fish sandwiches and stuff like that, man. It's a lot of fun. You know what I mean? I think this is one of those tropes where where a character is put in a situation where technology really makes them look primitive. I just really get a kick out of that stuff. Now, as far as my 2 cents for the slow and the struggling, guys, man, I'm kind of blown away because I would actually recommend the hell out of this because I do think that, Stephen King has a heavier prose, and that's something I'm usually always wary, but man, he just does such a good job of, bringing you along through all of his craziness. This is just a wild ride, but he keeps you buckled in. Like, I never felt like I got ejected from the vehicle. You know what I mean? And there's something to that, right? So, by all means, I would say have a lot of fun with this book. So, this series is definitely shaping up to something that you guys could get into, and it definitely feels like it's worth your time. I think that the biggest problems you might have with this book, though, is, even though he'll keep you guided along the way, it is crazy. There are, you're going to be popping in and out of the doorways between worlds, between timelines. It can be a lot, but like I said, I just don't think you have too much to worry about because Stephen King does a great job of stringing you along. All right, guys, as always, thanks for spending some time down here at the channel, and to Stephen King, akadoosh, 2 thumbs up. Man, I'm extremely excited to continue this journey into the Dark Tower series. I know it's got a lot of people, it's a finished series, so, and it's older, so there's been plenty of hate, about how it ended. I'm still very optimistic about my journey so far, you know what I mean? And I'm probably going to get into the Wastelands maybe next month, if not early next year. And I'm chomping at the bit, man. This journey is cool. I don't feel like I've gotten very far. This does feel like a very long journey, and we've only begun even 2 books in. But the journey so far has been one filled with calamity, chaos, and just comedy. And I'm ready for more. So, all right, guys. I gotta go. If you're new, please like and subscribe. It really helps me grow the channel, guys. As always, peace.